Start out the flowchart, I'll just start out with the definitions of all the shapes, alright? This start is rounded rectangle, meaning it's rounded over here, rounded edges. Or if it's just some functions, you have a sharp corner rectangle, and a read or button state means that you're representing input output. You can talk about this shape over here. Input output is slant. Alright, I'll remember this by normal system is like this. If you input output, you're gonna change your system, so it will change, so the shape will change, something like that. Alright, just yeah. And then it's the button press some triangle. I think it's although this is not triangle, but I don't know what it's this, like double triangle, like I don't know. And then this shape over here, just remember it's just a subsections of your clear data over here. Alright, it's just your one is a section, is a topic. Alright, the sub of it is just simply this one. Alright, subroutines. Alright, it's double vertical edges. Just take note that there will be this line over here if you can't see. Alright, there will be this thing. Alright, and the arrows I don't need to describe lah. Well, let's do something about this thing because I see that there's some need of it. Alright, the system tells us that you have 6 programs. Alright, you have 6 programs. If you go through one, let's say if you go through the first program you'll go through, you'll start. Right, so this is this shape over here, and then you initialize your button, whatever shape. Alright, and once this starts, you'll read the button. Alright, and the button will change. Alright, and you'll wait. Why do you want to wait? It's because you're trying to remove the bounce. If you still remember the bounce, because the bounce normally is not this. When you press the button, right, there will be a bounce, like not something like this. Instead of this nice one, you bounce. And what's the problem with the bounce is because sometimes it bounce higher than your current input. Alright, and therefore if you want it to close or however, it actually zooms out. Alright, something like that. So when you want it to be close, or however, what it do is it bounce already, then you continue to like this, continue to go on. Alright, so you want it to wait about 50 milliseconds, and then after you read your system because you don't want some bounce to happen. Okay, and then the button will reset. Alright, so once the button is reset, if it's no, then you will go back to your program 1 again. If it's yes, then you will go to the next program, second program, and then you'll flash whatever like happy lah, and then you'll go to this state and tell them this is the second program. So you initialize the second program and things go on. Alright, so you'll initialize and then you'll have the program, things like that. But what if it's the 6th program? Alright, if it's the 6th program, then you have to restart, right? Because you want to restart it to 1 because there are only 6 programs. If the 6 programs finish already, then how do you make it restart? Because once n is n already, you want it to be looping around. So how do we do this? So take note that when you see this thing, increase n. Alright, when you increase n, then the function flash n times. Alright, so this thing over here is a subsystem of your increase n. If you increase n, then it will do something. Alright, so it's a subsystem. Now because we are talking about trying to reset things, so we're also talking about some subsystems, increment program. So within this increment program exists something to tell the system that once you reach 6, you're gonna go back to 1. Alright, something like that. And therefore you set the current button state and then you'll go loop again. Things like that. Alright. Please remember to note that this rounded rectangle is marking the beginning or end. So if you happen that you want to end the process, then you just do this thing again and then write it as end. Alright, don't forget. Alright, because normally for this case, our case, you have a start initial. Alright, you have an initialization block, meaning when you start, you set your initial stuff. Alright, there's no loop. So therefore it's just initialization block. The main loop is simply all the loops because it all goes back all around, right? It goes back all around. Alright, so there is just a loop. But if you have something like, if there's nothing else, then maybe it goes to end. So you're gonna draw something like a rounded rectangle. So please remember these little stuffs. If statement, I think you will know. And then this thing I think you somewhat know. So you need to know that these are the inequalities. Alright, if button state is not 0, alright, so it's just an exclamation equals to. If it's larger or equals to, is something like that. If it's smaller than equals to, something like that. Things, yeah, so you need to like take note of this also. Alright, and you may come across the variable scope. The variable scope, you still remember in my previous video where she talked about the scope already, the global and the stuff. Alright, your global declarations. Once you set this at the global side, you can see by any other functions below. Alright, but however, if you were to have all this function over here, these functions over here are simply within its own self. It does not interact with other system. Maybe at the bottom you have some other functions. So these other functions is not related to this once you close your curly brackets over here. Alright, this means that everything is done. So the next stuff. Alright, they are not totally they can't interact with each other. But however, the global is the global scope. And then these are all the functional scope, or the small little scope that he's talking about over there. Alright, so you can just read it up if you're free. The file scope is file. It is a file that can be seen and used by any other functions, any other small parts. So if it's a function scope, it's just within itself. Alright, it doesn't interact with other, I think. Yeah, most likely the case. You can just read it up if you're free. Alright, one more thing is that if I have a pi is right, you know that pi, which is this pi, is 3.142, right? Or blah 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 blah. So if you set this thing as this thing, that is when pi is lesser than 3. But in general, pi is definitely larger than 3, right? So if you put in this case, if it's inside the if statement, alright, the system will ignore it, alright, or maybe have some error. So please do not do this type of stuff or careless mistake. Just yeah, I think you get what I mean, because pi can be also be some other stuff that you know that the program should read it as something larger than another stuff, but end up you set it as smaller, and therefore the program can't read it, and may have some errors and things like that. This thing over here is to tell you to do something to create a suitable names. Don't do stupid names, something like that. Lastly, I want to stress again is that please include the bounds, the wait 15 millisecond. Alright, you don't want your system to read other stuff. Alright, because once it bounces, alright, when you read this thing over here, the system may think it's this thing, and then you continue to go. So when you wait a while, when you bounce, at least it goes down, and then your system read is this one, and therefore everything goes down. So because you want it to be here, right, you don't want it to be here, right? So therefore, these are the things that you may need to understand, and you need to remember when you design your own program. Alright, and last but not least, when you want to convert your this is LED dot, the dot behind tell you, like sometimes like dot or dot wave file or whatever. So for Arduino is Ino file. Alright, for C++ is CPP, being plus plus. Alright, so these are the things that you need to know, but just get a concept of it. Alright, and you just read it out. So the first section over here is to link the objects. Alright, you're gonna link the objects. The next section over here is telling you to erase the program. Alright, after you erase the program already, you need to write your binary file to the Arduino flash memory, and then after you have to verify whether you write is it correct or not. Alright, so these are the things that you may need to like just understand the steps lah. So this is the last page you need to memorize, because these are all the 6 steps. So he actually split the 6 steps into like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 type of things, but you just need to memorize this one. Alright, maybe I think this is a potential test question, I don't know lah. This is simply telling you that if you want to program your Arduino in terms of C++ file, what you can do is to compile whatever file into C++ and other required files into extension.o, and then link them as a .bin and then upload to Arduino. Alright, and then you erase your program memory on the Arduino, the past memory, and then you write a new memory to the Arduino flash memory, and then you verify whether you're correct or not and things like that. Hopefully this is just something that you need to like get the meaning of it, and I hope that this is pretty clear. And then and I think it's just my orbit, and so this is it. See you soon.